Hi everyone, welcome back to Eduvisor. Today we have with us the Head of International Relations, Mr. George with us, and we'll be having a candid conversation with him. So let us begin with Mr. George introducing himself.
Hello everybody, my name is Georgi Medashvili. You can call me George, as everybody does. I'm from the University of Georgia. That's the biggest international university in the country. We have the widest range of English programs and the highest amount of international students in Georgia. And I'm really happy to interact with you and answer the most searched questions of this applicants.
So we have a lot of questions which are posted through us through our platforms, and so what we'll do is we'll ask Mr. George to convey to us regarding them. So the first thing when we talk about MBBS in Georgia, what I want to hear is how do you, sir, look at medicine from Georgia, especially for international students?
Yes, that's a good introduction. The most important part is that Georgia has very rich tradition of teaching medicine. Even the word medicine is coming from the Georgian ancient queen's name. It was Medea. From her name, it's coming through Latin and through Old Greek. So we have the very rich tradition of teaching medicine. And our idea of teaching medicine is right now is based on the Western methodology of study process, mostly also the American experience, the recent American experience of past 50, 60 years. And before we made the medical program at the University of Georgia, we also analyzed all this experience that been somehow accumulated in all the world, globally. And I have to also mention that there is a government authority in Georgia called National Center for Public Education.
Yes.
That has direct control on the medical studies as on any other direction. And it has the WFME standards adopted already. And according to these standards, every program of medicine in Georgia is authorized and accredited. So it means that every program has gone through a lot of checking. So there are a lot of checks and balances, and every little program is done according to the hundreds of regulations adopted by WHO with WFME standards. What I can say about the University of Georgia is that additionally we also have the ASIM accreditation, which is the German accreditation body, which is very, very, very well respected. And in Georgia, there are only two universities that have this. We are one of them. And in general, Georgia has the idea of teaching medicine as a single cycle program. It means that 240 credits of bachelor is combined with 120 credits of master degree. Yes. Combined 360 credits of single cycle medicine, which is running for 6 years. With practical sessions in the hospital starting from the first year and gradually somehow expanding till the graduation, which also has more than 1 year of internship with the hospitals, and it also follows all the regulations of NMC as well, because we have to understand that without the WHO and WFME standards, there are no regulations in the world. So if you want the degree to be accepted globally, you have to follow the standards. And same standards is the source for NMC regulation as well. So that's the general idea.
So moving on to our next question, when we talk about MBBS in Georgia and especially from University of Georgia, one thing what really matters, for every MBBS aspirant is that, they're concerned about the course curriculum. As we are all aware that NMC has, recently made a lot of, changes and amendments, and national exit test being one, which is concerning, especially for students. So when we talk about, sir, course curriculum with respect to national exit test, how does the course curriculum of University of Georgia help students, to prepare for such an examination?
That's very, very important issue. So very good question. So yeah, you're absolutely right. So now that NMC will introduce this next one and next two examination.
Yes.
Next years. The thing is that I totally understand the students, because it's very hard to be the first one who takes such kind of test, because it's been introduced right now. So the students have no data. What kind of
absolutely no value.
What kind of problems to expect? What kind of test it will be? So they are a little bit frustrated, probably. They are a little bit worried. So that's very, very understandable. But we have to also know that this next one and next two is not coming from nowhere. So it is based on the American experience of USMLE. It's even doing the same style of approach with the USMLE Step 1 and Step 2, somehow integrated into next one and next two in India. So I think in general, for as a country, it's a great big step forward, because the more experienced, more well-prepared doctors you have, the better healthcare system you have in the end of the day. So what we've done is that, the University of Georgia was working on the medical program for quite some time. So when we have the 6 schools, one of them is the School of Healthcare, and the School of Healthcare has several programs: nursing, pharmacy, dentistry, medicine. Medicine was the last one we made, because we took a lot of time preparing. Because we've analyzed a lot of data, and we understood that this American license examination experience is the best one by far right now. And all these other license examination tend to follow the same.
Exactly. Yeah. So we are talking about the USMLE.
Yeah. That's why when we were doing the curriculum, we decided to think about the future of the students, because when the student wants to be a doctor, sometimes they don't have much information. Maybe they don't think so advanced that after 6 years to be a doctor, they'll need 2 things.
Yeah.
One is the degree, and the other one is the license.
Yes.
And there, I think in FMG examination, we had terrible statistics that around 90% of people who came abroad to study medicine failed the license examination. This is a tragical situation for the family. The family puts a lot of effort, a lot of money, a lot of investment. Person makes a lot of effort himself. They're graduating, and then something like that happens. So we understand in the University of Georgia that students need not only the degree, not only the points, not only the lectures, but
also the license. Exactly.
The license, all this is in vain.
Yeah.
So what we've done is that we've analyzed the types of the license examination, and we tried to put the material in the curriculum.
Yeah.
So the people who will go through the curriculum will be already prepared for the much of the tests that we'll do. Because, we have to understand, these tests are more practical than the sometimes the university exams. Because without knowing a lot of things, you cannot be a good doctor.
Yes.
Because, for example, I studied international relations and Middle East. That was my major. So if I had B or C in one subject, it means that maybe I'm not that familiar with some kind of historical period or something, and maybe I won't be paid in that particular job. But for the doctor to have this kind of problem means that somebody might have a fatal result.
Absolutely. You cannot take any risk.
So we have to understand that we have to put a lot of theory. Without that, it's impossible. Biochemistry, physics, all these kind of things you have to put there. Anatomy, remember, all this kind of. But above that, we need a lot of practice. Because without the practical experience, there is no success of license. It's not up to no. Even if you succeed on license examination, and the situation in the hospital, the stress,
you can put lives at risk. So there is no point.
The responsibility on your shoulders will not give you the chance to be a doctor. So what we've done is that we've tried to some kind of we made some kind of, this kind of thing that we divided the curriculum into 2. So we think that the first 3 years should be more theoretical.
Preclinical part.
Preclinical part. We don't mean that it is only theory. It is theory mixed with the simulation hospitals. So the person can be somehow
get an experience of everything.
Very familiar to the to the
get used to the environment and basically
we have the best simulation clinic in Caucasus. Everybody accepts that. That's a well-known fact. We made the OSCE examination where the student is walking alone with the simulation patient, and there is a black mirror over there, and the whole faculty is watching. There is a recording going. So whenever you do the examination, you are able to see what you've done. What was the right thing? What was the mistake? You analyze it with your doctor, so it's very helpful. And we have the digital classes for the anatomy, which is very helpful. Maybe later on I will also speak about that. And after 3 years, you're perfectly able to do the next one.
USMLE step 1.
Because USMLE was, and probably still is, one of the hardest examinations of the license. So
absolutely,
we aimed on that. If a person can do USMLE without the problem, then other license examinations won't be a problem as well. So after 3 years of this more theoretical studies, the student is very much able to do this. After the third year, then the more practical side,
the actual clinical stunts, yes.
So
general surgery.
The person spends more time in the hospital, more time with the actual patients, caring, doing actual treatment. And what we also done is that we made limit for our classes for the clinical rotation. So we have limit of 5 students per one at one bed. In India, I've heard that sometimes you have 30 people at one.
So this actually gives them more access.
This gives them more access. This gives them more time to spend with the patient, more time to actually doing something. And this also gives the professor more time to interact with each one of them individually, give them the instructions, show them how to treat a patient, show them how can you build a relationship between the patient and doctor. That is also very important, but that is not so much popular to discuss sometimes, but this is a very big part of the being a doctor. And in the end of the day, the professor has the right time to analyze what kind of performance has a student and to give a right assessment. What should be done? What is well done? What is something that we can do better? So this is very important. So that's the general idea of our curriculum. So after 5th year, the student will be able to do the step 2, but most of the people, they plan to do it after 6 years because you are all together, you have more time, you have more experience. And but if I was on their place, I would do the same. But after 5th year later, you can also do that. So that's the general idea. First 3 years, we're gonna cover something that will help you out to do the step 1 or next one. Based on your future plans. And in the next 3 years, you get as much practice as you can to do the step 2 or the next 2. So I'm pretty sure that we're going to have a huge success with that kind of approach. And I think I have to encourage the viewers that don't be afraid of this kind of examination. In the result for India and for you particular will be better than expected probably.
Yes, sir. Taking further, as you already talked about TV consult, and with our channel and with our team, we actually reach almost 13,000 students in a year through our seminars and counseling. So one big question is regarding the clinical is, sir, many of the countries like Russia and some of the countries like Russia, they actually allow the real cadaver, that is cadaver. But in Georgia, we use dummy, right?
Yeah.
Can you give me some sort of light on that how this is same and how it can be different when you do?
So I'll try my best. So you're absolutely right. So in Georgia, we have this experience because Georgia was part of Soviet Union, one of the most important parts of Soviet Union, and we had the same tradition of teaching with actual cadavers as is still practiced in Russia. What nobody talks about is that when you have this kind of tradition, you also have a data. How exactly these classes with cadaver have influence on the person's study process and what kind of result is someone achieving. So, on the other hand, the same data is coming for the different approach as well. So, right now there are 2 courses. in Europe as well. It's not only about Georgia, but in Georgia it was a very drastic shift. So I will try to explain that as well. So there is part of the human rights. So the human rights organizations, they always say something about cadavers because it was the way it was done was violating the human rights. And I think if you think about our family members, we would
exactly do the same. Yeah.
And there is a second part, which is probably more important one in terms of the education, is that the result that is given is worse than the expected one. Why? Because cadavers change drastically.
Absolutely.
Very soon.
Over a period of time.
And you cannot change them so soon because so that give the students not the real image of the human body, not the real image of the influence of disease on human body, and not the real good experience in working with that. Because this is something that a lot of students describe as very depressed occasion.
Yes.
And it's something that cannot be really well measured how it can be useful for the future career. On the other hand, we have the other option. This option starts with more digital classes. For example, we have digital anatomy class.
Okay.
We have big computer that was hundreds of thousands of dollars, and every month you have something new. You implement it, and let's say you want to have the body of a Southern Asian female 45 years old.
Okay.
You can indicate that. It will look like average female of that age from that area. Then you have to indicate the same purpose that the cadavers were.
Yes.
You have to indicate which disease you want her to suffer. 2-3 diseases. Directly it will be visible.
Simulated.
Yeah,
exactly.
Then you can unfold the skin level, unfold the muscles, unfold the nerves, the veins, whatever. And you can make the one particular, let's say, lungs bigger. You can see how exactly this disease is working on lungs, how a person's lung looks after this. Even you can implement, let's say, this lungs disease with this kind of kidney mix. This is how it looks. So this is calculated that the image that is given in that kind of situation is so powerful that it stays with the student for forever. So whenever in the hospital you see something like that, in a second you remember that, oh, that's that. That's one part. The other part is that what we've done is that we've given more time for hospitals.
Yeah.
Okay, instead of doing something with the cadaver, you're actually
actual patients. Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
And that's even harder. And it gives you more experience, and it's something that you really will need in 2-3 years.
And there's also one more thing that's over a period of time that, when you have thousands of students touching the same cadaver, you don't exactly have...
It's not useful anymore.
Yes.
Nobody's talking about that, but everybody knows that it's not useful anymore. I'm sorry to say that most of the cadavers used after 2 semesters don't look
probably renounced. Yes.
So everybody knows.
So just a piece of flesh, probably.
So I would love to assure that the approach that is adopted by the most of the European countries right now, including Georgia, is something that is aimed for the future result.
Okay.
And believe me that in 5-10 years you'll do the same in India. Because this data that we have with the new approach is very fascinating and very powerful. And after 5-10 years, it will be probably adopted everywhere.